Hey friend, welcome to Homestead by the Highway. If you're new here, I am glad you found me. If you are visiting again, welcome back. Glad to have you. I'm going to be making a pear recipe today. I purchased a 20-pound box of AZURE Pears, and AZURE is the name of the company I bought them from. They are non-gmo pears. I'm not even sure if I'm saying that right. Somebody can correct me. I was going to Google it and have Google pronounce it for me, and I forgot to do that before the video. It's capital D apostrophe ANJOU, and I will put that down below so that you can read it and know what that is. And these are red transitional pears. These are not perfect. This is a 20-pound box that I picked up for $15. And transitional means that they are a farm that is in the process of getting their organic license to be certified organic. So they can't say organic, but they're in the process of doing that. So to me, that's close enough to organic, as well as for the price, $15 for a 20-pound box. Granted, I do have some bad spots on some of these. Some of them kind of came that way, and some of them it's been, I think, 5 days since I actually picked them up. But let's get on to what we're making today. I'm actually doing this out of the Ball Book of Canning, and this is a recipe in here that looks super yummy to me, and it will help me get through some of these pears before they all go bad. So the one we're doing today, if you happen to have this book, is on page 145. We're doing the Pear Maple Bourbon Butter, and it says it makes about 6 half pints, and we need a half a cup of maple syrup, a half a cup of bourbon, and 4 pounds of pears, peeled, cored, and coarsely chopped. So we're going to get the pears cleaned up and get them into the stock pot so that we can get them cooking down. So let's start with getting these cleaned up. I do have other pear recipes going on behind me that are going to be in different videos. So if you're like, it looks like you've done it already. Yes, I have other recipes going. So I'm not sure which ones are going to come out first, but if the other one has come out, I'll link it down below, and vice versa. So let's get these pears cleaned, cored, and chopped. I'm going to give them a quick rinse in the sink first, even though I'm peeling them and they're organic, just from traveling and that kind of stuff. So like I said, I just did another pear recipe right before this, so my scrap bucket, I don't know if you can see in that or not, is like half full already, and I literally did this 3 minutes ago and flipped to this video while the other pears are baking. So with this, I found that it was easier if I just cleaned a whole bunch of pears, or peeled a whole bunch, and then went through and diced cut up a whole bunch. This one I'm going to be dicing them coarsely, so I'm just going to dump them right into my pan, and that way they'll be ready to go. It does not say for this recipe to soak them in anything to keep them from turning brown or anything like that. My last batch did turn a little bit brown, but not too bad. But I figure since we're adding maple syrup and bourbon, it's probably going to turn a little brown anyways. Like I said, if you do see some bad spots on these, I'm going to cut a very generous amount out from around them. So I'll do this one. I have everything in the way. That's all I did. I found that pears are very easy to peel and core. The struggle that I have with them is the little seeds. You can cut through them so easily. Oop. And I just keep finding them everywhere, and I do not want my seeds to end up in my final product. little seeds. The last recipe we cut and cored and did them in, cut them into 8 slices of 8s, which I don't think that it matters, maybe just to help with even baking time on that one, because they are just going to get mashed up anyways. So tell me down below, what is your favorite pear? I've never been a big pear eater. Growing up, I had a type of green pear, I remember eating a fresh one. It probably came in my holiday stocking, and the texture was not for me. I did try these in the last video, and I do really like these, and I am glad that I went out on a limb and got them on the sale price to make stuff with. I like the pear flavor. It was just the texture. So I thought if I turn it into preserves or jelly or whatever, I knew I would like it. But it was the texture. So what kind of pears? I live in Southwest Michigan. I would love to grow pears to do things like this, because I'm sure I would love them baked off. A friend of mine baked some and put, I'm probably going to mess this up, blue cheese, feta cheese, Gouda cheese. I'm thinking it was blue cheese and something else in them, and baked them, and I don't know, maybe they had maple bacon or something sprinkled on them. Now I don't remember what her picture was, but they looked beautiful and amazing. And I love to do that with peaches. I love to bake them and put some honey and cinnamon on them, and I actually grill them. We do them during the summer, and I love them grilled that way. So I think there's a lot of things that I would love to do with pears now that I know they all don't have that same texture. Like apples are very, very different. So what is your favorite kind of pear? But if you live in Southwest Michigan by any chance, tell me, and grow pears, tell me your favorite pears to grow. We really would like to plant some this summer, and I would love to have pears in the next couple of years. I do know that it does not happen the first year you plant them. We planted apple trees. I think this will be our 3rd summer with them, but they are still, we got good size. They were probably 7 feet tall when we got them, but I doubt, I got one tiny little miniature apple, probably the size of a golf ball on it last year. I went ahead, picked that off so it could continue to work on growing roots and getting strong. But we would love to add pears. I would like to add peaches, but the peaches that I like are not the peaches that we can grow here in Michigan. I don't mind the ones that we can grow here in Michigan, but most of them are not canning worthy. So I do special order my peaches from Georgia when I do canned peaches. Alright, I am just going to finish cleaning and cutting these up really quick, and I will bring you back when we're getting them on the oven. Alright friends, so we're back at the stove. This is our pear maple bourbon butter, and we are going to do a 1/2 cup of bourbon and a 1/2 cup of maple syrup. This is from AZURE. It is organic maple syrup. This is dark and robust. I love this for maple syrup. And I have never been a maple syrup fan. I loved the generic cheap stuff that you bought in the store, which is just basically colored sugar water. And so it's a half a cup. I'm using 1/4 of a cup, so I'm going to do 2 of these. And the alcohol in this is going to cook off. So I'm not worried about there being alcohol in it, because I'm going to cook it enough to where that is going to cook off. And then we're going to do a half a cup of maple syrup. And we are going to bring this to a boil, and then we are going to reduce the heat and let it simmer. Let's give this a quick stir. I don't know how much of a boil chopped pears make. Alright friends, so we are back working on the Maple Bourbon Pear, and what we're going to do is, it says you can do this in a food processor. I'm just going to go ahead and use my Vitamix for this, and we are just going to ladle this in, and it says to do it in batches, and I'm not going to, so I'm going to do it in like 2. I don't have a lot here, so 2. It is, the mixture is still hot, but it's not boiling hot. It's just been on the stove on the lowest setting, on not my highest burner, so that it could stay warm while we were completing that other project. And pop the lid on, and we're just going to puree. Oh yeah, perfect. This is only going to take me 2 batches, but I'm going to dump it into there. And I probably could have used an immersion blender as well, because it's such a small batch. Ooh. I am trying my hardest not to make more stuff sticky in here. This machine is new to me, so I don't want to overfill it, and I don't want to overfill it with hot liquids, but I think, we'll see, maybe I'll take some of this back out. I think that'll be all right. This does look like a pear sauce or an apple sauce. Pretty much applesauce, but it's called pear butter. Alright, well that one I could have dumped back in the pan, because we've got to put it back in the pan and let it simmer till it thickens some more. So that was a silly choice. That's all right. Sometimes I go into these cooking days and I do really well with not creating a ton of dishes, and Other times I just dirty every dish at the same time. But I have been, while things have been cooking, I have been cleaning as I go. And because I had my jars in my dishwasher is full of clean dishes, I've been hand washing pans and stuff like that while other stuff has been cooking. So we're going to get this back on the stove. We're going to turn it to where it's kind of simmering, let it cook down some and thicken up. Right now, it's pretty soupy. So we'll let that thicken up some, and then we will jar it up and get it in the canner. Popping back in for a moment, it says to bring to a boil and then turn it down and let it simmer. And I thought it said that, and I just wanted to make sure. So we're going to bring that to a boil and then let it simmer. We'll be back, and I'm going to kind of clean some of this up because I have other things to do once I get this project done. All right, friends, we are back, and we are in the final stages of putting our last batch of pears into the canner. And I learned a little tip. It is Canuary, as most people in the canning world are liking to call it right now, and there is a collaboration going on out on the internet. I am not a part of that collaboration. I have been very, very inspired by all the amazing women that have put videos out. They've given a ton of great tips. I've been canning, I think, almost 4 years now, and here was a tip I learned this past week or so. Lids come usually in a stack like this. These did not come this way, but I'm going to use this as an example. So lids come stacked like this. When you're putting them into water, not all lids say to put them into water anymore. A lot of them do not require them to be heated up. This collaboration was sponsored by 4 Jars, and the 4 Jars lids, which I use and love, they say to warm their lids because there is enough compound on the inside. You want it warming up. And I am water bath canning or steam canning and versus pressure canning. Pressure canning, I may not heat up lids, but it does say to do that, so I do try to follow what the manufacturer says. That being said, lids come stacked like this usually. If you don't have brand new lids on jars, take them, and when you drop them in your bowl, drop them that way, flip the next one over, and put the next one flat, flip the next one over. If you do every other direction, when you go to use your magnet, you're only going to get one rather than several at a time. So take 1/8 of a second and flip them every other direction. These lids that I'm using today are old. They came from a brand new case of jelly jars, and I will put a little clip at the end about how I opened this up and what I found. The lids and rings were not on the jars. They were packed separately in a flat pack, and it was a really cool thing for me to acquire this box of jelly jar lids, because I don't know when they stopped doing that. I'll have to research it. There are coupons pre-printed inside the box, but there's no expiration dates on them. So I was hoping that would kind of give me a gauge as to how old these jars are and lids are. But I'm going to put these in water because I'm sure these ones say to do that. Let's get this jarred up. I have hot jars, hot liquid, going into a hot steam canner. And I'm just going to I'm going to load all the jars up really quick. And then I'm going to go through and wipe them all down. They won't cool that much for the few jars that we are doing. And I just wanted to double check. These are 1/4 of an inch of headspace. Every time I am doing a recipe, no matter how many times I have made that recipe, this one is new to me, but I always double check, even though I've read it 100 times, as I'm doing that exact step. Headspace is something that can make or break the safety of your food. I am doing a couple of mini jars of this so that I can share them. This says it's supposed to make 6 half pints. So we will see where we ended up with that. And I probably could have cooked this down thicker. And my apple butter that I make is, I wouldn't say really thick, but it's pretty thick. For this recipe, I even weighed out extra pears for this recipe so that I could just put one right in the fridge, which I still can, and not actually can one of these, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to save my lids. I'm not going to waste a lid on this. I will just put one of these directly in the fridge so that we can just try it. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, if you count these 2 half pints. And this one was supposed to be 6. So this makes about 6 half pints. 4, maybe if it were 5, I would be okay, but like that's pretty far off. Especially because I weighed a ½ pound extra of pears because I knew I was going to be cutting off some of the bad spots. Oh, poo, y'all. We're getting these back off, back in the hot water. And I didn't clean my rims. And these are sticky and sugary, and I want to make sure that I'm doing that. So I make these on paper towels, and I use them for all kinds of things in the kitchen. So they look well used, but they are clean. And if you're ever interested in that side of homesteading, I do some sewing. I made this apron in the 8th grade. I've had it forever. But I do some sewing, and I love to crochet when I have downtime. I love to read historical fiction. And because in Michigan, we can't be out in the garden all the time. Although that's where I'd like to be. All right, so these lids, if anybody hasn't seen these in a while, these are the lids to that pack of containers that I was gifted. And like I said, at the end of this video, I will pop a little clip of me opening the box. It's really cool to watch. And these are just going to be finger tight. And we are going to get these into the steam canner. I'll walk you over there so that I can show you how that works. So this is a steam canner, and you fill the water on the bottom. And I already have some jars in here because I am doing another recipe that has the same exact canning time. So I'm going to run them at the same time, even though they're 2 separate things. They're very alike things, and they have the same canning time. So I'm going to take this empty one out. We will get these in. And normally I label my lids before I put them on my jars. But this is going to be very obvious which is which. These 5 are one flavor, and those 5 are another flavor. That will be a different video. So on the steam canner, on the lid, I'm going to show you this really quick, and then I'm going to get it on there and we'll talk about it. There is a dial. So that dial tells you when to start your timer. I'm going to get my lid on. I'm going to turn this up to get it to a rolling boil. I am the blue zone, which is the farthest zone out based on my altitude. So with the blue zone, All right, so I am that blue zone, which is the outermost ring based on my altitude. When this dial, the red line, gets up into the green zone, that is when I can start my 10-minute timer. But first it needs to get steaming and get up to that green zone before my timer can start. So I have it turned up and the water is coming to a boil, and we'll wait for it to turn to the green zone and then start the timer. We'll see you when we get back. All right, friends, so these have finished processing. I moved them from my stove over here. They've been sitting over there for about a half an hour. You want to make sure if you're using a steam canner that you follow the directions very, very carefully. There's a reason why the directions and steps are there. So with this steam canner, once the time is finished, you can turn the burner off, but you have to let it sit there. Do not move your lid. Do not bump your lid. Do not. That is part of the process. Mine's actually been sitting over there for almost a half an hour, and I just tilted the lid a little bit to let some of the steam come out here. And now we'll just remove the lid. Oh, one of them just popped. I don't know if you can hear them. So they are processed. I have 2 different batches in here. So this batch we're going to remove right now is going to be these, and these are the Maple Bourbon Pears, and they look yummy, delicious, beautiful. We're just going to get them out of here really quick. And I will just let them sit on the counter for 24 hours. I'm not going to touch them. I'm not going to do anything to them. And just let them slowly come down to temperature. If they haven't popped yet, they will pop. And then I will check them tomorrow to make sure everybody's sealed. If they're not, I'll pop them in the fridge and we will eat them. This is actually the maple bourbon. So this is, it's a little thinner than what I was hoping for butter. I was hoping to be a little bit thicker. My apple butter is thicker. I just don't think that I let it cool down enough, but I'll probably just eat it with some yogurt, so it won't really matter anyways. Or I will make a batch of oatmeal bake and I will stir one of those in there with the oatmeal, and that'll be yummy delicious. So friends, thank you for joining me. Thank you for your time. Appreciate you, and we will see you soon. I will pop a couple of my other videos up here to watch between now and my next upload. I'd love to know where you're from, and if you let me know your favorite kind of pear. If you're a canner, what pears do you can, and how do they work out for you? I'm wondering if these didn't thicken up because they were that kind of pear that they were. And I will run some rolling footage at the end of this really fast to show you me unpacking these jars and how they used to be packed with the lids and the coupons that were on the box, and it was just a fun little adventure. Thank you, friends. Have an amazing day. This is really raw footage. I did not have any intention on posting some of this, but I am unpacking it with one hand, and you can see that the jelly jars are inside. All of the lids and caps are inside of this box, and you'll see me struggle to try to get them out because I was videoing one-handed. But I'll show you those, and this was a neat box that I had gifted to me.